Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Wednesday, September 23rd. I'm Gary Stevens, and we are very glad every month to have a chance to chat about what's going on in the Ottawa County Clerk's office, as well as the Ottawa County Register of Deeds office, with the Clerk and Register of Deeds, Justin Roebuck. He joins us today via Zoom connection from his office. Good morning, Justin. Glad you're able to be back with us on WHTC.
It's great to be here, Gary. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much for joining us. And if you have a question for Justin, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. It will be 15 years next month since Holly and I went to your predecessor's office in Grand Haven and showed the documents, said we'd like to get a marriage license. And on October 22nd, 2005, Holly and I were married in Ottawa County. And it's that time of year, even though spring is normally the time we associate with weddings, the fall is also a good time for weddings as well.
It definitely is, and especially this year in the fall. Congratulations, by the way, on that anniversary coming up. That is exciting. You know, marriage was the best thing that happened to me, so it's a good thing. But yeah, you know, the fall is a beautiful time to get married. But what's interesting about this year, obviously with the pandemic, is that so many people canceled plans that were scheduled in the spring. So we're really seeing a rush on marriage season now because of that. And so we're pretty much back up to speed with where we have been in years past in terms of our processing of our marriage documents. But again, a lot of that is still being, we're still able to conduct that remotely as well. So folks can come into the office, but they can also do the marriage application process by mail. And that's been going pretty smoothly for hundreds and hundreds of our residents over the past couple of months. So both options are open to folks, but it's been going pretty well.
Speaking about licenses, concealed permit licenses are also handled by your offices. How is that moving in considering the outbreak?
Yeah, we had a backlog there for a while, obviously, because one of the non-essential services that was shut down was the CPL. Were the CPL services, and that was really statewide. So there were no counties in Michigan that were able to process CPLs. So as we reopened, we did have a bit of a backlog there, and we've pretty much handled that. And so now we're just taking regular appointments for concealed pistol licenses, and that's been going smoothly as well. One of the things we're going to be offering shortly for customers in that area, currently, you have to get fingerprinted at an outside entity, and normally the vast majority of our folks use the sheriff's office for fingerprinting. But there are other services that you can get as well in the community that take fingerprints. So the sheriff's office, again, has been having to deal with a backlog of other fingerprinting. They do fingerprinting for a lot of reasons, not just CPLs. So that's one thing that we're going to be able to take on within the next few months, hopefully by the end of the year. You'll be able to have kind of a one-stop shop in the county clerk's office with CPL application, but also the fingerprinting being done by our staff. So we're excited about that too.
If you got a question for Ottawa County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Justin Roebuck, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Before we talk about elections, and I will take pretty much the bulk of your time, remaining time, and voting, of course, we are less than 6 weeks away from the general election. I want to talk about title fraud. It's something that we have discussed in the past, and it just needs to be reminded because title fraud is still an issue, and you don't necessarily have to go through LifeLock or any of the other security services. You can do some of the work on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up, Gary, because it is something that really affects almost all of us. I mean, anyone who owns property, property is a very valuable asset, and it is something that we need to protect. And what I always equate it to is, similar to your credit report, you should kind of do a periodic checking of documents that have been recorded in your name or with property associated with you in our office. So, people who are willing to commit title fraud can do so by recording documents in our office, as long as they meet statutory requirements for recording, we're required to put them on public record. That doesn't make them legal, but what it does is it could really cause a serious, what we call cloud to your title. So if you go to sell a home later on down the line, and something is invalidly recorded on your property, that could really affect you negatively as you try to process and get title insurance for the property. And so what we have is called Property Fraud Alert, and it's really a pretty simple system. You can go onto our website at miottawa.org/ROD. You can find it there probably a little bit more quickly, but miottawa.org/clerk will work too. And you can sign up for free, and basically you just put your name. You can also put your parcel description of your property. And anytime anything's recorded in your name or using that parcel description, we will send you an alert. So it's like an email. You can get an email, a text, or actual phone call from our office. And it's a really valuable service. We've got over 2,000 people in the county signed up for it, but we're always encouraging folks to do it. It's simple, it's free, and it protects your property.
Justin, I wanted to sort of clear the decks for our last 8 minutes or so of our conversation talking about elections, but there's a story that, or shall we say, I got an email last week, and I wasn't here Friday, and I don't know whether or not it was brought up with your colleague from Ottawa, from Allegan County, Bob Janetsky, but I want to bring it up to you as well. This is from a group called Comparitech. It's a consumer website situation here. Comparitech did a researchers of voter data privacy in each state, analyzing voter registration legislation, voter list request processes, and cybersecurity standards to determine which states have the best privacy protections for their voters. Michigan scored 18 out of a possible 47 ranking, making it the 5th worst state for voter data privacy. And in the story that they put on their website, which is comparitech.com, hackers get their hands on their data. There's uproar. Recent examples include Michigan voter information being for sale on the dark web. Authorities insist this data wasn't hacked, though, as the data is freely available to anyone through a Freedom of Information request. As a county clerk, Justin, how concerned are you about that data getting into the wrong hands?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point that you just brought up at the end there, which is that it definitely does not take a hack to get voter information. Voter information is public information under Michigan law, and under most state law, it's obtainable. You wonder why you get all this political mail that's starting to come to your mailbox over the next few weeks. I'm sure we'll see a little bit more. It's basically because your voter information in terms of your name and address is accessible, and it's public record, and anyone can request that through, as you said, Freedom of Information Act requests. There are certain elements of the voter data that are not public, and that is your voter ID, which is typically your driver license number or your state ID number, also your date of birth, and any personal information like your telephone number or email address. If you give that information to your local clerk, which we encourage voters to do, because if there's a problem with your absentee ballot, for example, it's a great way for your clerk to reach out immediately and connect with the voter. That information is not subject to FOIA. So it's interesting, and I'd like to do a little bit more digging on that. But the idea that voter information is very accessible is certainly not anything new. I mean, we've had everything from political candidates to companies who are seeking, address information, request voter data. So it's something that we haven't particularly had a big problem with. There is legislation right now. It's been introduced that would, particularly with folks in witness protection, or this legislation would expand this a little bit to domestic violence victims, to ensure that we're protecting their data in particular. So it would be a process that would be a fairly simple application through I believe it would run through the Secretary of State's office under how the legislation is currently written. And you could request essentially to have your data not FOIA-able. And I would certainly support that legislation. We have supported that. And that also goes for deed documents as well, which is a little more complex because deed documents relate more to history, right? So if you're selling a house, someone's going to do a property search and they have to search all the way through the history of the records to ensure that the title is clear. And so while that legislation does cover register of deeds, we're kind of working through some kinks there, making sure that the title industry is able to perform their work as well.
Let's get to a call. Good morning. You're on the line with Ottawa County Clerk Justin Roebuck.
Good morning, Justin Roebuck. I have a question for you regarding what you have talked about regarding property search, in case someone has looked into your property. We live in the Allegan County portion of the city of Holland. Does Allegan County have a similar type of thing on their website to sign up for?
I do not. I am not entirely sure. And do you know, Gary?
I think Bob has mentioned, Bob Janetsky, the Allegan County Clerk, has mentioned that he has a similar type of program.
Yeah, right. I would definitely encourage that because it's a really good tool. And we can follow up as well. When we first signed on to this, we were in contact with the Allegan and Kent County and Muskegon County clerk's offices, or registrar's offices, I should say, because it's just a great tool. And obviously, we're all here in the same community, particularly as you say in Holland. But unfortunately, we don't have any of those Allegan records in our database. That would definitely be.
But I think Allegan does have a similar one, sir.
Okay,
that's great.
Great to know. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate the call. 395-1450, 395-1450. I think I remember talking to Bob about a similar thing that has happened and what his office is doing as well. Even though yesterday was the 6-week 6-week warning before political Armageddon. I mean, the election day. And now, because Michigan's voter registration rules and laws have been relaxed so that you can register us up to, right on election day itself. But still, this is National Voter Registration Week, and you're involved with that.
Absolutely. And we're encouraging everyone, even if, Michigan does have a very high registration rate, which is great. There's obviously a lot of new voters this year, which we're super excited about. But even if you've already voted, we're encouraging folks too to it's a great opportunity, a good reminder to check your status, the status of your voter registration. So if you've moved recently, just double check at michigan.gov/vote and make sure that your registration is current and updated. And that will help you as a voter have a plan for how you're participating in this election, whether you're going to do it by mail or in person. We want to make sure that everyone is on the rolls and on the rolls appropriately. So we've seen a large number of folks come onto our voter rolls just this year. A little over 15,000 people have been added just since the first election we've had this year, which was March, the March presidential primary. So,
one final thing: one state is saying we're going to call the National Guard in to help to make sure we run elections because we don't have enough election workers, and that's something you're involved with.
Absolutely. I'm going to give a website here, and if anyone is interested in serving in our community as an election worker, go to miottawa.gov/election worker. We've got some great information there for folks, just Q&A, frequently asked questions. You can sign up there online. It takes you directly to our online training. You do have to be certified to do that. It's about an hour and a half training, and we need people in our communities to do this. Yep. And we definitely encourage that.
Justin Roebuck, unfortunately, we're out of time. A lot to talk about, and I know we'll probably talk about the elections more when we chat again next month. Justin Roebuck, Ottawa County Clerk, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. That's Justin Roebuck on WHTC's Talk of the Town.